Gary Williams here. Some friends of mine are making a difference in the community, and one of the ways they're doing that is helping to sponsor this podcast. Petroselli Homes Realty Group is a boutique brokerage service located in downtown Niles. They offer a personal and intentional touch to the home buying and selling market. They take the time to learn each client's story, much like this podcast, because to them, the first step in linking buyers to the home of their dreams starts with understanding and a great deal of trust. John and Jennifer Petroselli have had the honor of helping countless buyers and sellers make effective real estate decisions to plant their roots, raise their families, expand their wealth, or simply relax and retire. So if what I've described is what you might be looking for in a realtor, I suggest getting in touch with Petroselli Homes on Niles Boulevard in downtown Niles. Now, coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time. Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
Hello, Fremont. You're listening to episode number 30 of the Fremont Podcast. This week is an exciting week, and it's exciting for a number of different reasons, but one thing that I want to tell you just before I get into all those reasons is that I want to tell you how much I appreciate you. I appreciate you interacting and you listening to the Fremont Podcast, and appreciate you sharing the Fremont Podcast. This week, we've had a record-breaking numbers of people listening to the podcast. And it's just really exciting to see how many people are interested in what's going on and interested in what's happening in the city of Fremont. So I just want to thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being a part of these conversations. This week is the week of the 4th of July, and coming back after a couple years of being away is the 4th of July parade in Fremont. This is one of the things that I remember several years ago just being really excited about, and because of COVID we have not been able to have it the last few years, but this year we're having it again on the 4th of July at 10 a.m. sharp is when it starts. If you want to find out more details, you can go to fremontfourth.org. That's Fremont, the number 4, and then th.org, and you can find out more details about the parade and how not to miss that parade. So make plans to be out there. It'll be a great time on Monday, and hope to see you out there. Another reason why this is an exciting week is that we have another new sponsor for the Fremont Podcast. This is Dale Hardware, and Dale Hardware, that has been here in the Fremont community for decades, wants to partner with the Fremont Podcast because they are excited and encouraged by what we're doing, and so they want to also be a part of helping tell the stories of the city of Fremont. Today, on this episode, I have with me for this conversation a special guest, Ashley Wong. She is a local baker, but that's not what all she is. She has a great story, and I'm really glad that she sat down with me. She was willing to share her story with me, and now I get to share her story with you. So brought to you by Dale Hardware is my conversation with Ashley Wong. I am really excited to have Ashley Wong with me today on the Fremont Podcast. Ashley lives here in Fremont, and I was first introduced to her through Instagram. I found her Instagram randomly, but then as I began to look at her Instagram, I saw something that caught my attention that was actually really cool to me, and we'll talk about that in a minute. She was on the Halloween baking championship on the Food Network, and I don't know about all y'all listening, but I love watching baking championships on the Food Network. So it caught my attention, and then now we are here doing an interview. So I'm really excited to have Ashley Wong with me today. How are you doing, Ashley?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank
Good.
you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your Instagram post. I think I see you posting all about the whole process of making all of your your tasty goods, all your cookies, cakes, all that stuff. It's pretty awesome, but it seems like you're like working a lot. And
yes.
I mean, is it how many hours a day do you find yourself working, doing baking for people?
I try to do like 6 to 8, but sometimes it goes into 10.
Wow. Now, do you have your own kitchen, like your own commercial kitchen that you work out of?
No, so currently I am working out of my house.
Wow.
I have my license, a cottage food permit, so I could do that. I do custom decorated cookies, custom cakes, but I'm maxing out now, so maybe a commercial kitchen is very in my near future.
Okay. So let me ask you this: how does that work? How does that work well? How does that work for you? I mean, I can imagine that you've got a life outside of baking that you need to spend time investing in, but then you've also got your kitchen that you're doing your business from right where you live. Do you find that to be a benefit to you, or is it something that sometimes it's just like a problem, like you just wish you could go home from work?
I think I've been doing it for so long now that I'm just totally used to it. So when my kids are at school, I have like 4 hours to work. So I really make sure to take advantage of those 4 hours. And then in the evening when my husband comes home from work, then I work 4 hours. So I try to do 8 hours, but I'm a night owl. And sometimes my kids want to spend time with me and I end up, working till 2 and 3 in the morning.
Right. Wow. I have another friend who's a baker and she lives in Tennessee, and I find that she works really, really late as well, like 2, 3 in the morning. And, wow. So let's back up a little bit. We kind of jumped right into your baking business here, but let's get to know you a little bit. You live in Fremont now, and when did you move to Fremont, and where did you grow up?
So I'm born and raised in Fremont.
Are you serious?
I am.
Wow, good. I didn't even know that. That's awesome. Oh wow. Okay, so tell me about growing up here. What was it like?
I have very fond memories of growing up here. I went to Glenmore Elementary.
Okay.
And then I went to Centerville, and I went to Washington, and
wow,
that was the good days for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That's really cool. So you lived over in the Centerville area during that time growing up?
Yeah, so I lived over kind of by Washington,
okay,
and then I moved closer to Glenmore, and then we've just stayed there since. So.
Cool. Wow. So growing up here, what do you have anything that sticks out to you as just being like a special memory that happened in Fremont that you look at and you're just like, maybe as an adult, or you have your kids with you and you're driving through the city and you just like, I remember that this happened here, and you just have these memories that come back. Is there any place like that or anything like that you can share with us?
I have 2 places.
Okay. All right.
My first one is Ardenwood Pumpkin Patch before they're not around anymore.
Okay.
It was like family tradition where every year my dad takes me and my siblings to the pumpkin patch, and we've been doing that. There's like pictures of me and my sister when we're like 2 and she's like a baby.
Wow.
And until COVID hit, we were even bringing my kids with my dad. So it's like this generational thing that we're doing.
That's awesome.
So we were really sad when Ardenwood closed,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, that was like our pumpkin patch.
Yeah,
and
right.
so many like good memories, and we have a lot of pictures of it and stuff.
Yeah.
The second place would be the Art and Wine Festival.
Okay.
That's something I always looked forward to during the summer, like going with my parents and my siblings and seeing friends, and sometimes going with friends and then going with my husband when we're dating.
Yeah.
And, now we go when we're married with kids. So yeah, those are always like good memories
That's
about
awesome.
Fremont for me.
Well, that's coming back, the Art and Wine Festival. So, I mean, it was gone for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to have that back. Well, that's great. Those are really, really cool. So, like, when do you remember what are your earliest memories of wanting to be a baker or of baking? Was this something that you've always wanted to do, or did it just happen that you made a cookie one day? Because I have some really bad experiences of making my first cookies, and like I think that I have a desire to like be a good baker, but I have failed more often than I have succeeded. So, what is your experience, or what is your memory of being a baker? Did you want to do anything else first, or when did this come about?
Okay, so baking for me is actually like very comforting and roots all the way back to spending time with my Nana as a kid. So she lives in Southern California.
Okay.
And when we would visit her, she would always say, like, what do you want to have ready for you? And she would always have that Southern hospitality. So you'd go to her house, she'd have like 7-Up cake, and she'd have cinnamon rolls and apple turnovers, just like a display on the table.
Wow.
Like walking into her house smelled like a bakery. And I always looked forward to that. And when we would get there, me and her spent a lot of time in the kitchen, just like talking, and she'd show me family recipes. And we would just spend all of our time baking. And to this day, when we talk on the phone, we still talk about baking. And when I see her, we're in the kitchen still baking. So that's like the root of it.
That's cool.
It's very nostalgic and homey for me. And I guess I never could part from that feeling.
Wow. That's awesome. I love that. I think in a similar light, I used to spend my summers growing up on my grandparents' farm. So the summers after school was out, I'd go to their farm and I would help with the animals and bale hay and all that stuff. And I always wanted to be a farmer when I grew up. And so even now when I get together, my grandma is still alive. She's 93 and she still lives on the farm by herself. But we talk about the farm, how things are going. It's not a working farm now. But anyway, I understand how those generational influences make a difference in your life and like what you want to do with your life. So you graduate from high school. Did baking just remain a dream, or did it actually turn into something at that point?
So I think my sophomore year in high school, the California Culinary Academy came to our school and talked to us about the institute, like it's a cooking school, you can be a chef, all this stuff. And I like really wanted to do it.
Wow.
And I think I got talked out of it. And I was like, I'll just go to college and see what happens. And through college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like, I felt like I was just kind of wasting time.
Yeah.
And I saw a counselor. Actually, I saw like 3 counselors before someone actually helped me. But my third counselor was like, well, what do you like doing? And I was like, well, I love cooking. And she's like, I think you should go to culinary school. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think you're right. So yeah, she pretty much helped me out there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So would you go back if someone were in your situation, a sophomore in high school, would you talk them out of doing this? Or do you just think it was the right journey for you to go from saying no then, but to say yes later?
I think I was meant to do it later.
Okay.
I think I needed some time to grow a little bit, because by the time I went to culinary school, I was 21, and I just knew that's what I wanted to do, like without a doubt.
That's
and
good.
I think at 18, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's so wise, because I think there's so many people that they insist on doing something just because of either they were inspired by something, or they were told they're good at something, and then they only get to a point where they realize they don't actually love it. And I think getting that love for something really seated in you kind of like pushes you, that's awesome. So you started baking. So did you go to culinary school then? Okay.
I did. I actually went to culinary school for savory.
Okay.
When they were showing me like the packages, it's like, oh, you can do the baking program, which is like 9 months, or you can do the savory program, which is like 15 months. And in my head, it was like, okay, it makes more sense to learn everything because baking is in the everything package. It's only 6 weeks, but I felt like I could get the experience outside of it. And there's so much in culinary. Like, I actually know how to do both if I ever needed to. So I think it was a good route to take.
That's awesome. Now, I haven't watched all the. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. We're not going to get there yet, but I haven't watched all the episodes of the Halloween Baking Championship yet. But oftentimes in those in those competitions, they include maybe an episode or two where you have to use savory elements, like you have to add like a meat into a muffin or something like that. Like. Without any spoilers, or you can't spoil. Did you have?
I was going to say I'm totally going to spoil it for you.
So did you have to do that, or what? Yeah, tell me about that. I'll look forward to seeing it when I see it.
In episode 2, unfortunately, I went to sudden death with some of my other fellow bakers.
Yeah.
That was a hard round because we had just partnered up with each other, so it was really hard to battle it out against each other because we were a super tight knit group. And the round was you had to do hand pies with meat. So I just went with what I always do, like an apple turnover.
Yeah.
But everybody went for bacon.
Right.
And I went for pancetta.
Okay.
And the reason why I chose pancetta is because I know how to use it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, this will set me apart because
everyone's using bacon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, not knocking it, but, you know, as a competition, I went for pancetta. And I chopped it up and I cooked it down because I know how it cooks. It gets really crispy and it's just really good.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I used the extra fat for the pancetta and turned that into a caramel sauce. So it was a pancetta caramel.
Wow.
And
that
then,
sounds amazing.
And then I tossed it in it was like an apple cranberry pancetta hand pie. And so you got the sweet, the sour, the salty. And that was, I think, me knowing how to work with savory definitely helped me in that round. I was like very confident in it.
That's awesome.
And like poured my heart out into that round.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you who won though.
Okay, good. I will watch that. That's awesome. So I want to talk about that more because I think that's cool, but let's back up just a little bit. So you went to school for savory. Mm-hmm. Did you start doing savory or did you just jump right into baking? Like what was that transition like?
So I went to culinary school for savory. My husband's also a chef, so we actually went together.
Okay.
And after that, we worked at a catering company called Paula LeDuc Catering. It's in the Bay Area. It's a super high-end catering. We've done events for George Lucas.
Wow.
We did... it was like a big event, like a Safeway event, where we plated 1,400 plates, and I think it was coursed.
Wow.
But yeah, so I got a lot of experience doing that, from like doing fine dining to doing catering to doing plating to, you know, you're building a kitchen on site, you're breaking it down. There's not a lot of women there, so I was one of the few women that really wanted to learn how to break down setup and all that. And then after that, I was like, I want to try and get a pastry job. And my sister-in-law worked at the Rosewood Sandhill Hotel in Menlo Park.
Okay.
And
sounds fancy.
It's very fancy. You know, it's actually a big deal that was my first pastry job because the chef there was an Olympic pastry chef.
Wow.
And,
that's incredible.
Yeah,
wow.
So I didn't know that she was that big of a deal before I got the job. And once I got the job, I was like, oh my God, I'm working under this person.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
You know, she was hard on me, but in the best way. Like, she really pushed me to be the best pastry chef I could be. And she made me think outside the box and use flavors I could never imagine with pastries. And we did all this amazing stuff. But then because it's a hotel, I was working like 12-hour days. And, you know, every holiday. And
was your husband also working, he was working at a different place at the time.
Yeah.
And I know that when I have friends who are chefs and bakers that work in the restaurant business, and that's some grueling hours sometimes. It's a lot of work. So I imagine with you guys working two different places, how was that? I mean, how was that for you guys' like relationship and stuff?
Well, we weren't married yet at the time.
Okay.
We were engaged, so we were working to save money for our wedding because we paid it all in cash.
Wow.
So we were working like 3 jobs.
Okay.
So my first food service job was actually In-N-Out Burger.
Wow.
And that was the one at Fremont.
Over in Paseo, or the
Automall.
Yeah, Automall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that one was cool because like I remember them building it, and I love it. I mean, everybody loves In-N-Out,
everyone
right?
Loves In-N-Out.
Everyone loves In-N-Out.
Yeah.
And I remember when they built it over here, I was like, I'm going to apply for that job and I'm going to get it. And my mom's like, okay. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And I was super shy before.
Right.
Like, I'm not as shy, but I was like a hermit almost shy. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this because they're super friendly over there.
Right.
But so there's like 500 people that applied. And I went through the first
This is when
interview.
it originally opened.
Yeah, when it originally opened.
So you were part of the first, I'm assuming you got hired, but
Yeah.
You were the part of the first crew that opened this. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was one of the original people that worked there, which is cool to say.
It is. It is. That's very cool. Wow.
But yeah, so after that happened, I went through like a second interview, and then I went through a third interview, and then they called me and they're like, oh, you got the job. So out of 500 people, they hired 56.
Wow.
And I was one of them.
Yay.
Which was
That's
cool.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. Yeah. And then how long did you work there?
Like 8 years.
Okay. But this was one of the 3 jobs that you had.
Yeah. So this was when I was 17. And then I quit when I was whatever 8 years later is. Was that 24?
Yeah, 25, yeah.
But by then, my hours were like super cut down because I was working at the restaurant, and then I was still working at the catering job. And then I had to quit the catering job because the restaurant was very demanding of me, and I needed to be there more.
Okay.
And then I quit In-N-Out because I just, couldn't stay around forever. They didn't want me to leave, but
You
I
want
had
to be
to
a
go.
lifer, huh? That's my first. I say my first jobs are on record was Wendy's, and but before that I did a lot of work for my uncles who had a farm and everything. But Wendy's, I worked at Wendy's for 3.5 years and enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a great place and had some good experiences there as well. But I didn't live on the West Coast at the time, and maybe I would have been at In-N-Out, but I wasn't. So.
Yeah, I have fond memories of In-N-Out. Actually, me and my husband met there.
What?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Me and him have worked with each other for a while, but
Okay.
that's where we actually met.
Wow, That's awesome. What a cool connection. Yeah. So you're working at Rosewood, and you are working under this great Olympic pastry chef, and so then how long are you there? And at what point did you decide that you were going to just do this on your own? Like, was the transition from Rosewood to doing your own? Okay, you had another stop.
Yeah, I got a whole nother stop. Okay, so I was there for 2 years.
Okay.
There are people that quit during the holidays, which is the worst time to quit.
Right.
And
yeah.
I'm a very loyal person, so I was like, I will stay till the end of the holidays, but I'm going to quit in January. So I quit because I wanted to have a life.
Okay. Yeah.
I think by this time I had just gotten married.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to have kids, and I knew I could not do that in a hotel. So, and I voiced that. I was very open about that, and my chef was very supportive of it. And so I quit, and then I went to corporate. So I worked at Oracle in Redwood Shores.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
and
great.
when I worked there, I was in charge of a department. So it was called the Conference Center.
Okay.
And I was the only woman on that side of the kitchen. I was the only one that was in charge over there, and I had one baker that worked with me.
So you weren't doing baking at this time. You went back to just doing.
Oh no! I'm doing baking.
Okay, you're doing baking.
Yeah,
okay.
but it's for like a section of because there's 6 buildings there.
Oh, okay.
And I was in charge of one of the buildings.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of like the higher end one.
Okay. Wow.
So we were pumping out probably 600 desserts a day. So I was in charge of menu planning, prepping. We'd have to do tastings. We'd have to make sure we have enough stuff for the next day. So organization and time management was huge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Was that something that you feel is in your wheelhouse? Like, are you fairly organized when it comes to leading a team like that, or even doing your own stuff? Or because I'm kind of there's some things that I'm organized in my mind about, but when you look at my workspace, I'm not that organized. Are you an organized?
I like to think I'm organized. I have everything labeled and dated, and I have a calendar that has dates on it and times and pickups and deliveries.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have to be like that. But doing the work at corporate definitely prepared me for it because there was no other help. It was just me and this other guy. And, we had a rotating menu. So every day was a different item. And it'd be 3 items per day. So I don't know how many desserts that is. It's a lot.
That is incredible. Wow. So how long were you there at Oracle?
So I was there for 4 years.
Okay.
So I did that for 2 years. And then after I had my daughter, I needed to kind of change my schedule a little bit. So then I got moved to the bakery part, which is the bigger area where they serve the rest of the campus. And there I learned to work with the breads guy. So I learned how to make croissants. I learned how to make, what's it called? Challah bread. I learned how to make, their muffins, their cinnamon rolls, their danishes.
Wow.
And then I worked with the lady that did cakes. I learned how to do cakes. And then I, was pumping out cookie dough. I was probably doing 60 quarts of cookie dough, 4 different ones in an hour.
Yeah.
So I love learning new things.
Yeah.
So I was just soaking it up ooh, I'm learning how to do breads, and I know how to do cakes now. And I was just trying to fill in as much as I could.
That's incredible. Wow. So I'm going to fast forward real quick, just jump into ahead in the conversation for a minute. You have your own business now. And is there limits as far as what you offer in your business? It sounds to me like, I mean, everything that I could think of that needs to be baked, like it sounds to me like you've already named it in this conversation. Do you offer pretty much anything as long as it's within reason? Or I mean, like what are your limits? Do you have limits?
Yeah, I do not do ice cream cake.
Oh, okay.
I do not do ice cream cake. Not because I don't want to, because I don't have the equipment to make sure that the ice cream stays cold enough to put it into a cake.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
I don't have the space to
Okay.
make that many people happy. I'm getting limited on the space I have now. I'm really working with what I have.
Yeah.
But I mainly do like custom decorated shortbread cookies. I do shortbread because they're not as sweet as sugar cookies with the icing on top. And then I do a lot of cakes. My homey stuff is like cinnamon rolls, turnovers, fresh baked cookies. I do subscription boxes where every first Friday of the month you get a box, and it's 4 cinnamon rolls, 4 fresh baked cookies, 4 cake pops, and that rotates every month.
Oh my goodness, that sounds awesome. I need to sign up. What is this? You brought me
I brought you chocolate chip cookies.
You brought me chocolate chip cookies.
And I brought you a decorated cookie because I always make extra.
That is awesome. Well, thank you. These look amazing, and I love chocolate chip cookies. Do they have sea salt on them?
They do.
'Cause I love sea
They
salt.
do.
On my
That's
chocolate chip
like how I
cookies.
like to finish it. So
Good
you
for
get
you.
just a hint of salt.
Well, good for me, actually. I'm excited. That's awesome. Thank you for bringing those for me. So you're at Oracle. At what point then? Is this the last stop before your business? Okay.
Yeah.
So at what point did you decide that you're going to start doing your own thing?
So after I have my son, I can't work the hours anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I tried to work with them, see if I can do anything flexible, but they're like, this is what we need. And I'm like, all right, it's time for me to go. And I actually didn't know I was going to start my own business at first. I just was like, I'm going to be home for now and figure out what I'm going to do. And during that time, I knew that I still wanted to bake. I just didn't know like where. I knew it needed to be close to home because I had like, I think a 3-year-old and a newborn at the time. And so everybody was like, why don't you just start your own business? And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I have 2 kids. And my mom's like, yes, you can. And she's just like, she's always been influencing me like in a very positive way. She always makes me feel like I can do anything and nothing can stop me from it. And so my mom really supported me on doing that. And my husband was a big supporter too. He was like, you make amazing things. And, you know, like, I think you can do this and be successful. And I just took a leap of faith and tried it.
That's
and
awesome.
It stuck.
It's so great to have support like that, though.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah. Was there a certain market that you tried out first? Like, did you have friends saying, I love your cookies, can you make me a bunch of cookies? Or was there something you started out with that you...
Yeah. I actually started with cheesecake before I even decided to start my business. I love cheesecake.
Yeah. Oh, man. Me too. Yeah.
Before I went to culinary school, I had this idea of my version of cheesecake that my sister and the rest of my family tells me was terrible. But to me, it was delicious. And it really was terrible. Like, I wouldn't make this today. But it was just like Cool Whip and Oreos and cream cheese. And I thought it was like the best thing. And my family was just like, yeah, we're good. And they still make fun of me about that. So in culinary school, I learned how to make a really good cheesecake. And then I tweaked the recipe and I played with it. And then I had a friend who would just come up with cool ideas like, why don't you do churro cheesecake? What if you did this? What if you did chocolate chip cookie? And, you know, all these cool flavors. And then I started doing that and people started ordering it. And then I stopped for a while. And then when I started my business, I was like, okay, well, I have to do cheesecake because everybody loves my cheesecake. And that was one of my top things. And my husband works for Microsoft.
Okay.
So
is he a chef for Microsoft?
Yeah,
okay,
he's an executive chef there. So at the time, he was like, you should come and do like a presentation on your stuff and bring it in. And I think they like it. And I was like, no, like, that sounds so scary. Like, what if they don't? And it's like, but what if they do?
Yeah.
So I just made my cheesecake and I made some cake pops and I made a whole bunch of stuff and I told them my story. and they loved it. And to this day, I still do stuff for Microsoft.
That is amazing. That is so cool. So do you have a business name other than Ashley Wong Bakery? Or
no, so it's Ashley Wong Sweets.
Sweets, okay.
I plan to get a brick and mortar in the next year to 2 years.
Where's that going to be?
In Fremont.
Yes.
I feel like we need a bakery here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so now we got to talk about the baking championship, because I don't know about you, but I have a lot of projects and I'm in the middle of this time of year. And when I look at my list of projects and I think about how I'm going to get started on these projects, I think that I need to go to Dale Hardware. Dale Hardware has been in this community for over 65 years. They have the materials that I need. They have people and specialists that are able to help me find what I need. And they've just got a lot of really cool things that inspire me, make me excited about getting my projects done and even just enjoying my summer. And so if you have a list of projects that you need to get done, or if you are just looking for a new grill or looking for a cooler or something to enjoy your summer just a little bit more, then I would recommend that you go to Dale Hardware on Thornton Avenue behind Artist Walk. Now, let's get back to our conversation. I love that. So my wife and son and I, we during the last year have gone, and I know this isn't what you were in, obviously, but we went through all like 9 or 10 or 11 seasons of the Kids Baking Championship. So we love the kids, and my son loves it. He's 9. But then we've also, like, whenever the holidays come around, holiday or Halloween baking championship. So when I started following you on Instagram, I started seeing all the stuff you were making and that you were from Fremont, and I was super inspired and, you know, all the stuff. But then I noticed in your profile that it said Halloween baking championship season 7, and I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that. Because typically we'll watch these shows and you'll see there's so and so's from, you know, like Walnut Creek, or they're from, you know, Menlo Park or something, and you're like, oh, they're really close by, you know. I don't think I've ever seen anyone from Fremont. And then all of a sudden I see that on your profile, and I'm just like uber excited that you're from. So tell me about that. Like, how did you, was that a dream that you've always had, or that you've had for a while, and then you just kept applying, or tell me how that all went.
That is a fun story.
Good. I like stories. I like fun stories.
I'm going to go back to when I was in college, because I went to Chabot, and I did a presentation and speech class about having my own like catering business. And I remember this guy says to me, like, I think you're going to be on Food Network one day. And I was like, yeah, right. And he's like, no, I'm totally going to see you on there. So fast forward to today. And wow. Actually, we'll go back to 2021, because that's when it happened. They contacted me on Instagram, or they saw my Instagram profile, and they called me, and they're like, hi, we're casting from Food Network, and we saw your profile, and we're interested in you being on the show. Is this something you'd be interested in? I'm just like, oh my God, what?
So they contacted you. It wasn't like something you applied for. Oh my goodness, that's
I would have
awesome.
Never gone out of my way to apply for anything. I have never had any desire to be on TV.
Wow.
I never thought that I would ever go on Food Network.
That is cool.
I would watch that show, and I was like, oh man, this looks so hard. Like, that's the one show I don't think I could do.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was not confident in that.
Yeah.
And then when they called me and they are like, okay, you know, can you do stuff other than cake? And I'm like, oh yeah. And I told them what I can do. And they're like, do you like Halloween? And I'm like, I love Halloween. Like, love Halloween. And they're like, it's really hard finding people that love Halloween. And I'm like, no, but I love Halloween.
That's awesome.
It's like my favorite time of year.
That's awesome.
And I
might have, I'll just throw this out there. I might have something for you to do this next year on Halloween. I know you probably already have things. My son was born on Halloween.
Oh, nice.
So he is a Halloween baby. And, you know, it's kind of easy for a parent, because as a parent, if you like, we always do a great job for his party. But if we some reason we aren't able to because of something happening, we can always say, just go outside and dress up, and everyone's going to give you candy. It's your birthday, you know. And so we can kind of like, you know, lean into the Halloween thing. But anyway, maybe I'll have you make his birthday cake this next year, and you can make it a Halloween and birthday.
Oh yeah, I would love to. If you just, you know, tell me how like kid friendly or how scary you want it to be.
All right. So they're talking to you about Halloween. You love Halloween.
Yes. So I love Halloween. I can do all the baking that they're asking me. And so then now there's this interview process.
Okay.
So the first interview was a Zoom meeting with one of the producers. Just like filling me out, seeing if I can, how am I going to be in person? Because, they say there are some people that get on there and they're like a deer in headlights. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not that. I know that much about me, but I get it. So we did an interview and they wanted me to put Halloween stuff up. So I like dug my stuff up. I had Halloween decorations in the background. I had my Halloween shirt on. They're like, you love Halloween. And I'm like, yes, I do. And then I went into the second interview with the next producer. So it's kind of like going up this staircase of producers. So then the second interview went really well. And then after that, they're like, okay, now... So they told me there was going to be a period where if I don't hear from them, then I didn't get picked. But, they're going to keep me in mind. So I didn't hear back from them the next day. And I was like, oh, that's too bad. But what a great opportunity that they even contacted me. So, I was like moving on. And then the next morning they call me and they're like, hey, Food Network thinks that you have that sparkle. And they want you to do the next interview. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the final interview.
Oh my word. That is crazy.
So the final interview was actually, I had to do a challenge at home and I had to time myself. So I had to do a cake and I needed to do something plated. And I had, I think, 3 hours to do it. So I timed myself and I did it. And I think the cake I finished like 25 minutes early. And then with the plated dessert, I finished maybe like an hour early.
Okay.
So the cake, I did like this, it was like skin that's sewn together. And then there's like eyeballs. So it's kind of like a geode cake where, you see the rocks beautiful, but instead of rocks, I did eyeballs. And I had blood oozing out. And then
awesome.
For my plated dessert, I did a spin off of like peanut butter and jelly, but with a cheesecake. So I did a peanut butter cheesecake on a Oreo crust, and then I did a like strawberry jam that I made, and I did these candied peanuts, and then I made spiders out of chocolate, and then my kids have a cotton candy machine, so I made that and used it for like webbing. And then I presented it, and then also when you cut into the cake, M&Ms fell out too.
That's awesome.
So they loved it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
And then they called me and told me I got picked.
Wow, that is cool. So, just curious. I mean, like the 3 hour thing, is that something that you had to video for them, or you just had to tell them that I did it and this is what I have? And, wow, that's cool. Wow. So then how long after that interview process and did you actually go on the show? I mean, did they give you any other? I've always wondered this because it's like, I try to wonder how surprised the people are that are actually on the show. I have two questions. Like,
ask away.
So how surprised are the people that they have, that are on the show? Like, we're doing this, and it's like, I'm wondering, do they give you like a list? These are the categories that we're going to be operating in. Make yourself familiar with them. And number two, I never see anybody with recipes. Like, it seems like nobody has recipes. Do you have to have the recipes memorized? Because it seems to me like sometimes those challenges are so. I mean, especially the kids. Like, I mean, and obviously you weren't in the kids baking championship, but it just kind of seems like, we're going to make this, and you're like, my grandma used to make this, and I made it with them one time before, and I think I have a little bit of experience. It's like I'm just pulling the recipe out of thin air. Like, I mean, so tell me, how does that work?
So you have recipes you can refer to, but you can't like have it open looking at it. So there is a lot of memorization in it.
Okay.
I chose a lot of recipes that I use all the time, where it's like I memorize it.
Yeah.
And then, because all you really need is your base recipe. And then, you can throw whatever flavors you want into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a lot of just.
And do they give you a heads up as to what they're going to ask you to do, or
no? So that one was pretty intense because we would go in and we're like, hey, you guys, what do you think we're going to make today? And we would all like try to play this guessing game, and we'd get there and you're lined up and they're like, and action, and they're like, all right, today we're going to be doing this, and you're like, okay, and you have amount of time to think about what you're going to do while they're talking, and it's like, there's a table behind you of like treats or product that you need to use in that round. And for me, I was like listening to the host talking, but then I'm just like actually just looking like, okay, so there's this, like what's going to happen. There were times where we had to get things at random. So you don't even know what you're going to get till you open your envelope or until you like put your hand in something and it's like, oh, this is what I have. So that was always, that was the curveball.
Wow. That's incredible. Wow. Do you, so man, I'm all into this now. How, like, did you do a challenge? Like, what was the recording space time? Was it like one a day? Like, was it all back to back, or because I mean, I think they post them like one a week, but like what time frame were you working in for the season?
So I'm gonna start with after the interview. It was probably like a week that they flew me out, and so they flew all of us out on the East Coast, and then we were there. So your duration of being there is 2 weeks, depending on how, if you get cut or not.
Right. Yeah.
I was there the whole 2 weeks, except for one day. I missed the finale, but I'm so proud that I made it as far as I did.
I'm proud that you made it that far. That's amazing. That's great.
But the filming,
I think that if I'm ever on one of the baking shows, I'm going to be on like Nailed It or something like that, where it's like, they just know you're just like horrible and they just bring you there just for the laugh. So that's probably what I would be on. But yeah,
that was like my biggest fear before going on there. Like when I would talk to the producer, they were like, "Oh, well, so how do you feel about it?" And I was like, "I just don't want to make a fool out of myself." And they're like, "Trust me, you're not going to make a fool out of yourself." I was like, "Okay, but I just really don't want to. Like, I really, really don't want to do that." Yeah. And they're like, "No, you'll be fine." And I was.
That's great. Good.
But yeah, great. It was let's see. It started out.
It's 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, so it was 2 weeks, and then the bake started out, I think, one bake a day. But we're talking about doing baking and interviews in the same day, and then you have to change your outfit, and you have to change your apron, and you have to get mic'd up. And so our days, I think, in the beginning started at like 7 in the morning, and they were about 10-hour days. 10 to 12 hours.
Wow.
And then as we got further in, I think by like episode 3 or 4, we started doing 2 bakes a day. And so we have 2 bakes, and then you do your interviews right after. And they do the interview right after.
That's what I was wondering. Because there's sometimes when they're doing they're doing like, I saw the one that you had to pick cereal, right? It was a cereal thing, and so
serial killer pies.
Yeah, right. And so you picked this, but then I'll often see like, well, I picked this, and I didn't know what in the world I was going to do, and I'm thinking, do they literally pull them out of the kitchen and do? Like, we're going to interview about what your choice was just now, and then we're going to put you back in there? It's all after the competition.
So it's pretty much like you start the bake, and it's usually like could be between 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
And then, which is like super intense because you're in this like competition mode, and then it's done, and then you're kind of like processing it. And then while you're processing it, you're waiting to get judged. So half of us were waiting to get judged, and the other half of us are going into interviews.
Wow.
And when you do the interviews, you're just basically doing a step-by-step on what you did. Like, okay, I started with this, and then I made this, and then I did this. This is why I chose this. And it totally makes sense to do it right after you did it, because I don't remember anything now.
Right,
I'm like, what happened?
What did I do? That's awesome. You're surprised when you go. Did you watch the season after it was?
I did. Did you watch it with weird your family? Watching myself.
Was it?
Yeah.
Did you feel like it represented well your experience, or do you think that is the production aspect, the editing and everything really kind of does it feel a lot better than it, or a lot worse than it really was?
It looks really good.
You're like, whoa, I am so
yeah, everyone told me I didn't look nervous or stressed, and I actually work really good under pressure, so I wasn't surprised that I didn't look stressed. I was surprised people said I didn't look nervous. I was super nervous for the first couple episodes, because I was like, oh my God, I'm on TV and I'm in front of these amazing Food Network judges, and they're going to taste my stuff. And, there was a lot of emotions going through that. But yeah, it was intense.
That's awesome. Wow. So, you said you weren't in the finale, so we kind of know that you didn't win the whole season. In everything that you've done, I think sometimes, like you said, you never wanted to be on TV, or it was never something that you were, that you thought you'd want to do that someday. Out of everything that you've done, whether it was working at In-N-Out or Rosewood or, Baking Championship, like, what do you feel the most proud of? Like, what do you look back at, what do you look at your career so far and you just say, I'm just really, really glad. I'm really proud that I've done this, that I've accomplished this, and that I was able to, to have this experience. Is there anything that sticks out when you think about that? Like, if people were to think of you of pastry, like if they were to think of you as a baker, and like I might say, oh, she was on Baking Championship, but you're like, what I really want to be known for, or what I really am proud of, is this. And what would that be?
I'm actually proud that I did Halloween Baking Championship because was super out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I'm very big on, in order to grow, you have to step out of your comfort zone. And that wasn't stepping out of my comfort zone. That was like diving into space for me. Like it was like way out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I remember when they called me, I had a minute where I was like, I had every reason why I could say no. And I just knew that it was opportunity I had to take. And, it wasn't just for myself. It's like showing other people, like, you can do it too. Like,
did your kids enjoy watching you on
they
TV?
They did. Yeah, they had a lot of fun. And it's nice too for my daughter to see like that she can grow up and do whatever she wants to do. And, there's no limitations to what you can do and be.
That's awesome. What a great role model. So as you look forward, you said you have a brick and mortar store, hopefully coming soon in Fremont. And then what do you hope to do? Like, where do you hope to go? I mean, as you look forward into the future, what are some of the things that you want to accomplish?
I think in the near future, with the brick and mortar, I really right now we're really big on being a part of special celebrations. Like, I feel like during COVID, we missed a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
And I was actually able to still help people celebrate, even though it was small. And I like to give that comforting feeling, like, like I'm being like, there's some weddings I've done, and then I do their kids' birthdays, and I'm like, I get to watch your family grow, and I get to watch your journey, and I get to be a part of all these special celebrations and these memories. And for me, I think it's not just about, like, I'm not just making a cake, I'm making like a memory for them that they're always going to look back on. And I have a lot of loyal customers because of that, and I want to serve more people doing that. So if I have a brick and mortar, I can definitely serve more people.
That's great. Do you know where it is now? Are you already working on it, or are you still trying to find it?
I'm looking right now. I'm currently just starting to look, but I am letting everybody know, like, it is going to happen.
It is coming.
It is coming.
Great. That is awesome. Wow, this is really, really cool. I'm so glad that we were able to work this out. We're actually recording this on Memorial Day, so you took a holiday. I mean, I don't know if home bakers take holidays, but you took a holiday to come and record this with me. Really grateful for that, and I'm so honored to meet you and to hear your story. And I'm excited about eating the cookies too. So that those look awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. And I'm anybody interested in baked goods, sweets, Ashley Wong Sweets. And you can find her on Instagram, and even if you don't like sweets, just watching the Instagram will
change your mind.
It'll change your mind. That's exactly right. So, Ashley, thank you so much.
No,
really
appreciate
it. Yeah.
You've been listening to the Fremont Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. And if you're so inclined, leave a kind review so that others can find the podcast. To stay connected with us, you can find links to our social media and other content at thefremontpodcast.com. This episode was hosted, edited, and produced by Ricky B. Music provided through Soundstripe.com. I'm Gary Williams. Join us next week on the Fremont Podcast.
Muggins Media.